What up, pimps? It's your boy, Dave. This is my reflection for innovation and creation about the go-karts. And this is my boy, teacher Mr. Sale, here helping me with this reflection. And that's where we're at now.
All right, so David, you're going to tell us about this the series of go-karts that you were working on.
All right, so I got a go-kart. I was browsing Facebook one day, found a go-kart that a guy I knew had for sale. Traded him some bikes for it. Went and got it. Worn out Briggs. Kind of a turd. Didn't hurt myself until I burned the clutch out, put a 5-horse Honda and a torque converter on it, and then it crashed itself into a rock. And it's still sitting under a tarp in my backyard.
How does it just kill itself or wreck itself? Tell me that story.
Well, I started it. A couple of friends were over, and they were riding it, and I started it, and the throttle stuck, and then it ran up my leg, and through the parking lot, was doing donuts, flipped over at least one time, and there's some more pictures of it here. There's me on it before it crashed, and there's some of the damage of when it did crash. It did some flips and stuff, and there's the scrapes on top of the air cleaner of where it was flipped completely upside down. But yeah, it ran itself into a rock, broke the frame, bent some parts of the frame.
So
bent steering.
So is part of the reason it had that much damage because you put a larger motor on it? You mentioned a second motor or something?
Yep, it had a 5-horse Briggs when I got it that was wore out and wasn't timed right or something, so I put a nice 5-horse Honda on it with a cheap Chinese torque converter, which gave it way more power than it needs.
Oh, okay. And did you do that intentionally?
Yeah.
Why?
More power is more fun.
So much fun it went off and had fun on its own.
So much fun it took off on its own and broke itself.
Awesome. So why did you choose a go-kart in the first place?
Well, because I thought it'd be cool to have a go-kart.
Yeah.
So I found one, and I was like, hey, I know this guy, and this one looks kind of cool.
Right.
It's vintage 1960s go-kart, so I said, screw it, I'm going to get this thing.
All right. So just for fun, really?
Yep.
Okay, and then after you crashed that one...
After I crashed this one...
Yes.
I was going to look at a lawnmower, a riding lawnmower, and this guy happened to have this go-kart standing up in his storage unit. So I said, what do you want for the go-kart? He's like $20 or something. Got him down to like $12 and took it home. Sat around for a while because I didn't have all the parts to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was given another chassis that had all kinds of brand new parts on it, never had a motor on it. And
that's the chassis we see right now?
Yeah, that's the chassis we see right now. That's the first one that I paid $12 for.
Right.
Second one, actually, I suppose. Then I just started hacking parts off of both frames. And there's kind of mocked up from the rear axle and a lot of the brake parts from the second or third chassis, I suppose, onto the yellow one.
Oh, okay. So you've really morphed two into this.
Morphed two go-karts into it, right.
So you didn't have all the pieces you needed in that middle one, or you just decided a combo of the two is going to be strongest, best? They
were both parts chassis.
Okay.
The one was... The welds were very weak on the one with all these nice new parts.
Mm.
And I didn't have... The frame was pretty good on this yellow one, but didn't have any of the parts, so I kind of started cutting and welding together to combine them.
Nice. So, as we move through the pictures, we see how this kind of came together a little bit more. One question I would ask you in the middle of all this is, if you were to do this again, how would you do it differently? Is there anything in particular that you're like, I would do this differently now?
Do a little bit more research, because I just kind of winged it and put the axle right under the motor, which was probably the best place in hindsight to put it for better weight distribution and traction.
So you would do that differently?
Yeah, I would put more research into it and to know what I was doing more versus just lobbing stuff off, because there was a very good possibility I might have had to just start again from scrap.
But you lucked out.
But I lucked out as per usual.
How much of that is luck and maybe an innate understanding of how things work better? Maybe not best, but better.
I guess I kind of knew how it works, and I've seen my fair share of go-karts, so I kind of based it off of all that,
Right.
and it just worked.
And the reason I ask you this is, when we talk about athletes, sometimes we talk about guys who have a feel for the game, or if we talk about musicians, we talk about people where the music just makes sense to them. And I wonder if that's the case sometimes for people who have an engineering mind too.
Yeah, I suppose. I've never had a go-kart. Well, I had the red go-kart, but that I didn't build that at all. I just kind of bolted a motor onto it and went. But yeah, this one most of the frame is built from scratch. Or all the important parts anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Messed with the steering, and wherever it contacts the ground basically is all fabricated. But yeah, having the prior knowledge really helps with building stuff.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What's one thing that you did specifically that you'd never done before but you learned about by doing this?
Well, I'd never done a live axle swap into a go-kart. So I had parts, and I just winged it, and I threw it all together, and it worked. Just some rough measurements, nothing precise.
Mm-hmm.
Always wanted to do it, but it just happened by cutting and welding.
Excellent. So first reflection, stamp it in the books. Done. Nice job, David.
There's some more pictures. Brake caliper, never done that before.
Oh.
There's me on go-kart once it was really close to being done. And there we have snow kart, where it has no traction but loads of power.